Let me make my video. Let me make my video, please. Back with the mouth. Hey guys, I'm RageLeppard, and this is a video for the 10 games of this generation. I don't necessarily count PC as a generation coming to an end because it is going to keep going. PCs are required to make games, they're required to mod games, you know. It's an argument. No, not treading those waters with the PC players or the PC elite. I'm not going into there because, frankly, I don't want to die. In case you're wondering what my dog was looking at, it was a Deadpool bobblehead. Alright, just to show you something that's not completely dorky, here is a Last of Us bust. Pretty sweet. Now, with the PlayStation 4 having just launched in North America and out in a couple of weeks in Europe and Australia and everywhere else, and the Xbox One launching simultaneously worldwide on the 22nd, which is next Friday, I figured this would be a great time to do a 10 games of the generation video. It's not top 10, it's not 1 to 10 of the best games. This is a list for me of games that best represent the generation, innovated on it, pushed it forward, revolutionized, and made it the juggernaut that it is today in the mainstream. So without further ado, Sam Fisher. I want his plastic surgeon. So without further ado, these are my 10 games that best represented this generation.
Man has a choice. I choose the impossible.
Yeah, cliched to hell, I know that, but it's for damn good reason. In 2007, there was Halo 3, Super Mario Galaxy, and many new experiences that debuted what was possible with the surging rise of technology that was at our disposal. But it was the original Bioshock with its spellbinding sojourn in the underwater dystopia of Rapture that started the ball rolling on what the generation was capable of delivering. Its haunting art style and strong innovation on the idea of dual weapon mechanics through using plasmids set the stage for quite a few copycats in the years to come. What Bioshock made a gigantic leap forward in was the best focus in the story of a first-person shooter of any game since Half-Life, peppered with all of its questions of religion, morality, causality, and the potential failings of the human condition on a grand scale. It introduced the gaming world to Big Daddy, a dude who should have been his own game boss but was just another bump in the road, another constant bump in the road to getting to the end of your journey. I think every single gamer who came out of this generation is now familiar with the phrases, "would you kindly," and "a man chooses, a slave obeys." Its accomplishments smacked it into an immediate crater on this list, and rightly so.
Commander Shepard?
He has no idea what he's getting into.
The quintessential sci-fi RPG of the generation, a game so polished and engaging with its emphasis on choice of dialogue and your own perception in a digital game world. Not the first Mass Effect, which debuted these ideas quite anemically, but its sequel, Mass Effect 2. Your male or female Commander Shepard and his or her exploits with the Cerberus Corporation provided some of the best gameplay the generation had yet seen, with its strong focus on building the world around you based on your choices. Graphically, it still stands up to this day, but more so do its hard choices that stick with you to this day, and the emotional investment that the game coaxed out of you to care for this band of misfits that you created. The fact that this was also one of the original examples of this generation that changes its path based on the imported save data of your previous choices in the prior game was a marvel of a studio committing itself to fully fleshing out a project, rather than a cheap cash-in. It may have divided fans with its latest sequel, but Mass Effect 2 is a game that still gets thrills talking about it to this day. Okay, here come the dislikes, the arguments, the negativity, but all of it is stemmed from the accidental explosion of the multiplayer from this original game. What many people seem to not realise or even choose to not remember is how much the first-person shooter genre moved forward with this game. The simplicity of the control scheme is what made the shooter genre more accessible than ever before, and the campaign is still, in this guy's opinion, one of the best in the series. Its multiplayer had a closed beta, and it only had one trailer showcasing the brand new perks system, but it all went on to become a staple in almost every shooter since. But more than that, Modern Warfare was perhaps one of the first true examples of many things falling into the right place at the right time, working into its favour. The Xbox Live and the PlayStation Network communities were finally beginning to flourish on consoles like the online community had for years on PC, and the barriers to online gaming were broken down more than ever before. And with all these factors and such strong word-of-mouth support for the multiplayer, it spawned an industry, brand partnerships, ambitious collector's editions for retail, its own fan convention, and it even continues to provide a steady career for many YouTube personalities to this day. Hate it or love it or completely loathe it and want to destroy it or flush it down the toilet, you can't deny that Call of Duty Modern Warfare was instrumental in the explosion of mainstream gamers that still continues to grow exponentially every day. LittleBigPlanet introduced Sackboy, and Sackboy introduced LittleBigPlanet. You could design your own levels with a comprehensive and powerful content creator on a console, and then upload them into the world of the internet for people to download and play on their own console. Everyone else could do the same. I remember playing a Mario homage level from some dude in Lebanon who spent his time making it as accurate as possible, and I could rate it and say, well done, dude. You know, it was fantastic. The play, create, and share mentality leached its way into Sony's ethos with games like Infamous 2, but it also went on to later influence the likes of Grand Theft Auto 5, when it does eventually come out with its content creator. It was one of the first true examples of a franchise infrastructure at work for a company, and with that in mind, LittleBigPlanet was destined from that day to represent what new player business models could become a gaming staple. Now, I was one of the few people not completely disappointed by the first Assassin's Creed, but I was part of the majority group who felt it could have built way more upon its great open world premise and given the right push, could become a true next-gen experience. In many ways, Assassin's Creed 2 was the game that everyone wanted in the beginning, but I don't think it would have been so polished had it not learned its lessons beforehand. The sheer volume of things to do at the time in AC2's open world was amazing. Its in-game economy, its micromanagement, its expansive set of characters, its unmatched historical accuracy, at least in terms of geography, was second to none. There wasn't just a single side mission aside from the main mission anymore. There could have been up to 5 or 6 to distract you. Though later games like Brotherhood and Black Flag, in my opinion, improved on a lot of this game's foundations, Assassin's Creed 2 was one of the finest games available up to that point, and in many ways still is. Yes, we may have lost some interest in the fact that it's become annualized and the gameplay is starting to wear a bit thin in some respects, but remember, we weren't always like that. This E3 audience reaction is a pretty good reminder of how much this game pushed forward a new generation and how excited we were.
Good use of the double hidden blade here, Sebastian.
What's going on? That's my blood. That's my blood. It's a lot of my blood.
Ah yes, set piece, set piece, set piece, pat a cow, another set piece. Naughty Dog were known for their attention to detail and pushing the hardware of consoles they were working on to its limits before, but I don't think anyone ever thought at the time that a game like Uncharted 2 Among Thieves was capable of actually being made. Not for its shooting or its cover-based gameplay that Gears of War had already done to a T, but in that it felt like an active cinematic experience. A movie in motion that you were playing, performed by motion-captured actors with extraordinary graphics and breathless moments one after another. It was the game that PlayStation 3 really needed to show that it wasn't a mental mess for developers and gamers who strongly believed you couldn't make anything good out of it. It was the game that reminded us that dedication to a single platform, no matter how powerful it is, can yield an experience that's one of a kind unto itself. Its single-player campaign is legendary at this point, but most of us were surprised by how well its fleshed-out multiplayer actually worked into a compelling competitive environment. I could go on and on and on about the masterpiece that Uncharted 2 Among Thieves is, but I think it should be best remembered as arguably the first true next-generation experience that we all delved into and couldn't believe that it was something that was possible to be made at that time.
Our American way of life. Isn't it grand? Peace, freedom, and bacon and eggs. Seems perfect. But what if it's not?
Now, Oblivion and Skyrim were considered for this list, but the true leap in Bethesda's vision in this generation for the scope of what a living, breathing open-world RPG with a buttload of quests and great storytelling could be was Fallout 3, and it was masterful. That awe-inspiring feeling of stepping outside of the vault for the very first time, surviving in the post-apocalyptic wasteland that was strangely beautiful despite its completely ugly desolation, and the VATS shooting system where different weapons would affect different enemies more specifically than others, it was just a game that we were aching for years to play. I lost nearly 80 hours into Fallout 3's game world when it came out, appreciating every area and seeing every side I could. Sometimes just blowing them up or outlawing myself out of frustration, or just to see how deep the programming veins ran into this game. Its detail was extraordinary, and to this day I feel it still sets a lot of bars in terms of how far an open world RPG can be pushed to combine so many elements perfectly. It'll happen again, I'm sure of it, but Fallout 3 will always be remembered for being one of the earliest games to get it absolutely right.
We won't get another shot at this. I want Joel to watch over her. What on earth do the Fireflies want with you?
The most recent entry into this entire list, but in my opinion, rightly deserved. Naughty Dog may have a couple of games under their belt that really show the idea of motion capture performance and emotion getting through, but none of their projects in their history of ever developing games has been more substantial than The Last of Us. The level of attention to detail in its game world is one of the best examples ever put onto a game screen. It's even got a multiplayer suite that may not have picked up as much steam as Sony and the studio may have liked, but it's got its own unique feel in the multiplayer environment, especially when it comes to the on-the-fly crafting. A game like The Last of Us I've waited since a child to play, even though I shouldn't have been playing mature games. It may have its nitpicks, it may have a couple of things that you could really point out, but you can't deny that The Last of Us is one of the best swan songs for any gaming generation to ever exist. It's a game that merits every superlative that it gets.
I rode in a gang. They left me to die after I'd been shot.
Grand Theft Auto 4 and Grand Theft Auto 5 may have leaped forward in their respective elements of an open world full of living, breathing inhabitants, but Rockstar's vision of them, in this guy's opinion, never coalesced into something as special or substantial as Red Dead Redemption. Leave aside the fact that it's the only real example of a true open world western game of the generation, this game was a monumental leap forward for open world storytelling, side quest design leeching into that storytelling, extraordinary combat systems like the Deadeye, and a marvellous breeding ground for a chaotic open world multiplayer. Its visual style is immediately recognisable, and its darkened tone amidst a quest for absolution gives the game a greater poignancy to its lead hero more than any other Grand Theft Auto game has before and after it. Red Dead Redemption also spawned one of the finest downloadable content expansions with Undead Nightmare, fusing western and horror so successfully it's amazing to even think it seemed like it could never work. Rockstar outdid themselves in every respect with this game, and it's going to be hard to get more of an open world experience without dipping into the uncanny valley more than this game did. Yeah, you've heard it before, but it bears repeating. Go out and buy Red Dead Redemption if you've never played it. It deserves a place in your collection.
It's gonna be a bloody job.
I don't know any other kind.
Superhero games had come and gone, and many of them were terrible. They couldn't get it right like even tie-in movie games like Return of the King could. But then along came Rocksteady Studios, an independent UK-based outfit who turned out Batman Arkham Asylum. It was almost a miraculous accomplishment, a superhero game that was built from the ground up to tell an interesting story and was packed with so many gaming systems that could have easily become too complex had they not been worked on like they were. What Batman Arkham Asylum perfected was the unquestionable feeling of Batman. Yes, you've heard it a million times over, but it's bloody true. It wouldn't have been half as good if the game wasn't so well steeped in its animated series / darker comic book origins, with superb voice acting bringing it all to life. It also provided one of the most memorable gaming segments of the entire generation. Ask anyone who's played this game what a highlight for them was, and the answers will most likely be the same. The Scarecrow. Every confrontation with this dude was unsettling, you had a disoriented feeling just like the Dark Knight himself, and you couldn't wait to get a good grip on reality as fast as you could. If that's not a way to make you feel exactly like you're walking stack of polygons, then I don't know what is. It's an experience that no one who ever played it at the time of its release has ever forgotten.
Oh, a little bad.
Tom lit. So there you do have it, guys, my 10 games of this generation. A couple of games that I did leave off this list that were so hard to cut out were Metal Gear Solid 4 Guns of the Patriots, the original Dead Space, Portal 1, Super Mario Galaxy, and of course Rock Band. Now, if you do want me to make a video on any of these current ones that were left off, do let me know in the comments. Definitely also follow me on Twitter if you do want to talk to me more directly. I'm more responsive on there. You can follow it at TheDarkPodcast. It's also a link in the description. Also, if you do want more top 10 videos of anything, top 10 game covers, that's actually a good idea. Now, once again, I'm RageLeppard. Thank you for watching the video. I'll catch you soon. It's here that you drop your dollars on weapons, equipment, and vanguards. Special items that range from a stealth drone that instantly... Hey, happy birthday! Oh, thank you! I hope you like playing golf.
Well, I don't mind it if it's...
Dead.